Check 1, check 2, this is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell, coming back for another episode here in Prospect Park. I got an awesome guest, a killer dude, my man, the myth, the legend. He has a great show in Brooklyn, New York that you need to check out. It's at Young Ethel's weekly. Awesome. I've known him from New York and L.A. He writes. He's cool. He's nice. Give it up for the Mr. Zach Sims, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're here. We're all teched out.
Absolutely. I thought you had to do the intro twice, and I thought you brought great energy both times.
Thank you.
I commend you. Yeah, absolutely.
It's always hard.
It's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. Yeah.
Showbiz is hard, and we're in a public space.
Sure. This has its own issues. We're handling it well, I think. A lot of wealthy parents.
Yes.
I feel like, yeah. There might be a field trip over here, potentially.
I did see that in the house. This is at Winter. It's a cafe here in Prospect Park. If you ever get to Brooklyn, come to Prospect Park. It's the best park in the world.
Oh, my God. Sure. Absolutely.
And they have a cafe, a new one the last 3 years. And it has good coffee, and there's bathrooms. And that's the thing.
I did not know there were bathrooms.
Oh, there's bathrooms, and there is a break in the fence over here.
Okay, sure.
If you want to jump.
Nature's bathroom.
Bathroom, which is also, something we could talk about. How you feel about public peeing.
Sure.
Or public smoking. Or, but we'll just start with coffee in general. I got a nice cup of iced coffee. What did you get? I just went over. I treated you to a nice cup of coffee.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
I got an iced coffee. I can be generally I would say I'm a cold brew guy, but I also feel like I've been drinking way too much coffee lately. So I've been occasionally transitioning into an iced. But this is just a standard iced almond milk. Feel good about it.
Yep.
Yeah,
when did you switch to almond milk?
Oh, that's a great question. Normally, I'm a half and half guy.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend, as we talked about, I just don't want to spend the extra $1.
Yes.
Where they gouge you.
Yeah.
On the almond milk.
Almond milk, yeah, they do get bougie on it. They just they upcharge you.
And
I
appreciate the coffee shops that will have the almond milk out. I'll go to those places more. Hungry Ghost.
Yeah, shout out Hungry Ghost.
Absolutely.
Shout out, they got their own Stumptown bean. It's a great spot. Good croissants. We'll do an episode at Hungry Ghost. I have done some beans from them.
Oh yeah. Oh nice. Yeah, they got a great bean over there.
You got a great bean.
But generally, I guess can't remember the last time I did just milk.
Yeah.
That's in Brooklyn. Come on.
Not in Brooklyn.
No.
Yeah, at home I do it because if I run out of my almond milk.
Yeah.
But dude, I got some new stuff this week that blew me away.
Oh yeah?
And it was only it was like $5, but it was worth it.
$5's not bad.
$5. It was a creamer.
Oh.
Laird Hamilton. He's this big wave surfer.
I have heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a huge, he does Mavericks and all those. He was like the original toe-in surfer dude.
Okay.
And he lives in Hawaii, and he's married to, I don't know sports. You know sports, but he's married to Gabby Reese. Is that right? The Olympian.
Okay. I don't know a lot about toe-in surfing, to be honest.
But he's he has a health food line.
Okay.
And he has a creamer, and it has mushroom cream. It's mushroom cream and coconut oil and cinnamon. And it's all and he's super California, it's just super ingredient, top shelf health. And it just rips. It rocks. It has this horchata feel to it that gives my iced coffee a thing. Now I got a small because I already made a pour over this morning.
Good for you.
And actually I had some leftover iced coffee from the night before. I have been going really hard in the paint with coffee. I try to even it out with the herb.
Sure.
And I try to keep it down to 1 pot a day.
Okay.
And then if I'm jonesing for a little something in the afternoon, in case I have a show or something, kombucha, I dig.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I do. I'm pour over as well.
Oh, you
pour
got
over as well.
Pour over.
Yeah.
It's just the evolution of man has
Absolutely.
happened.
Grind the beans.
Grind it.
Chemex.
Yeah, Chemex all day.
All over. And I'll do about almost a liter in the morning.
Yeah.
And then some usually in the afternoon as well. Yeah. So I'm still drinking lots of coffee.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying not to bring it down ever so slightly.
Yeah, you gotta. It'll fry you out. Like our kids, the same thing with herb. This
Good
is
lesson.
the Cannabis coffee hour, and I never wanted to have a podcast where you have to smoke weed or you have to drink coffee. You could do whatever the fuck you want on my podcast. I might be a little high, which I am right now. I had a couple one-hitters before the show, but with coffee is the same thing. Like you just gotta. You got to feel yourself, and definitely if you have anxiety and you have like too many cups of coffee, you can explode, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely found that I wasn't sleeping and panicked pretty much all the time. So that's like a tougher, you got to cut down on the coffee a little bit when you're in that experience. Yeah.
You got to, you got to cut it down, and then, by nighttime, try to work it all out.
Used to love a night coffee, by the way. Just a side note.
You do?
Used to.
Yeah.
Used to. When I lived in L.A., I would go to a diner. Diner coffee's barely coffee, I guess, anyway, but you'd have about 4 or 5 diner coffees run after a show or whatever, 11 at night. You
were a big diner guy. I did some diner years. Like after the show, stand-ups would go to a diner and eat some eggs. Would you do the whole egg thing?
Sure, I'll have an egg, of course.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stick to more egg whites these days, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the same thing with whole milk. Like I'll use it if I ran out of everything else. But it's just weird how society has gotten smarter in the last 10 years. Even regular dudes like us are like, we gotta have oat milk.
Sure.
I can't drink this funky old milk. This is gonna clog my heart up.
I grew up, skim was, that was the healthiest thing around.
Oh, the healthiest thing around. And now it's not healthy? Yeah, my mom wouldn't. No, we'd do 2%.
You did 2%? We lived with my grandmother for a while. She was very health conscious. So we were skim, which is just flavored water. I mean, skim is nothing.
I know.
Yeah. And then, no salt in anything.
He got you ready for almond milk.
Sure.
The first batch of almond milk definitely had a little bit of skim. But the first time you start messing around with skim milk, you're like, oh my God, is this water? What is this?
I still don't know how almond milk happens or oat milk. I don't really need to know.
No.
I could look it up, watch a YouTube, I'm sure. But whatever they're doing, it's fine. Now, would you drink a glass of almond milk? Would you do that? Would you just?
I love it in cereal.
In cereal, sure.
In the afternoon, I do a cup, and then there was a box of cinnamon toast.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, sure.
It wasn't. Usually, I do granola and some granola, and then some yogurt. Do a little parfait action, and then I like to cut it with the oat milk because the granola gets too crunchy.
Yeah, of course.
You gotta soak it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I'm just at the point in my life, all I want is smoothies and soup.
Sure. No, that's fair. You got to protect the roof of your mouth, know?
Yeah.
When things get violent, of course.
Things get violent out there. We're chewing bones.
Sure.
But yeah, coffee. Where are you with cannabis these days? Are you smoking? Are you not smoking?
Oh, I smoke weed. We talked about I don't love any. I'm not a big fan of performing in any capacity, having smoked.
Yes.
But yeah, I smoked. You did my show last night. I smoked afterwards. Just stuff like that. Generally,
keep it till after the nighttime, after the business is done.
Usually, still sometimes. Now I'm more. I would say I've transitioned more into an indica world.
Yes.
Which has been better for me, which I never thought would happen.
Yes.
But yeah, still certainly ripping it.
Yeah, it's good for sleep. Indica is great for sleep, and especially if you're doing any manual. I mean, it's just I think that's a good healthy one.
That was definitely, especially when because I lived here and then I lived in LA and then I moved back here. When I came back, the degree of public smoking and the degree of just times I would see construction guys just smoking a blunt on a piece of machinery. But I guess it is good for labor.
No, we can talk about it. I talk about it. This podcast is all about keeping real, and everybody says keep real, whatever that means. But I just want to be in the moment. This podcast is definitely about the moment, and it is just odd. And I like seeing these subtle changes and talking about it because the world, we act like everything's normal, but the world is completely flipped. You're right. Because I worked I had a little side gig for a minute, and it was heavy construction hangout, all construction, and during lunch break, and there was all these carts of food and shit, and it was in Long Island City down by the water, in the warehouse district. I was just, and then all the construction were smoking joints
Yeah.
and smoking blunts.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
it's never been like this. Construction actually looks fun. I want to do it. No, but if I wasn't so lazy, no.
Sure.
But construction is hard work. Shout out to all
Very
construction
noble.
workers. And I think they need herb, but yeah, people do need to, like if you're doing machinery, like I'm trying not to judge, like, but you shouldn't do that. And even yesterday I was in my car and this young buck was just blasting his music and had just the fattest joint. And
Yeah.
we were in the middle of traffic and he
Yeah.
had it
Isn't that
hanging
crazy?
out the window,
Yeah.
like driving. But then there's a part of me that is Californian, and I saw this like 15 years ago in
Sure.
Oakland. Like I remember driving and people were smoking joints
Oh yeah.
and shit.
Well, I mean, when I lived in LA, I would do that from time to time as well. But it is just, especially because when it used to be, I would smoke weed on the street or whatever with a one-hitter,
Yeah.
classy,
Yeah.
But you would always be looking over your shoulder. I knew multiple people who got arrested for smoking weed in public.
I did,
Yeah.
I did here in New York. It was a part. Yeah, a lot of comics got popped for smoking weed after shows.
And now you'll be in the park. You'll see somebody smoking a joint. You'll be at a daycare. Or parents smoking a joint. You know,
the
it's
bank,
like the
front of
tellers
cops.
rip it a bog. Yeah, of course.
New York does not.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
No, and what I'm finding, DC's the same way because DC went legal. But what happens is there's only so many people that have the jobs for weed.
Sure, that's fair too. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
as adults,
Yeah.
it's hard to get ripping high all the time, every time. And that was one of the reasons I leaned into comedy, that I was like,
Sure.
I was like, that's what everybody's like, Rob, you might smoke too much pot for comedy. And I'm like, well, that's why I got into this.
Yeah.
I knew what the 9 to 5 was. I had a 9 to 5. I had a suit job for like 3.5 years. And you can't smoke weed. Even if you are, it's not fun. But with stand-up,
Sure.
it can be fun. But as life gets older and you want to stick the landing and opportunities happen, like you said, stand-up's just hard. You got to be on point.
Yeah.
If you want to super kill it all the time. And sometimes being weeded out can take you kind
Just
of
get
like
sleepy for me at least too
Yeah.
sometimes, and I find for me, and everybody's got their own thing, but particularly if I get high like right before I go on stage, there's just no chance I can ever deviate from what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the jokes that are in my head, and I'm going to do them the exact way I have them in my head, and then I'm just trying to survive.
Yes.
Basically, yeah. And we're not that I'm Robin Williams or whatever, but without the weed, you can at least feel a little more loose, for me at least sometimes.
Yeah, you can be
Yeah.
a little bit more present in the moment and look at the situation at hand as it truly is.
Yes, yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm bombing. But then you're like, oh, if you're sober and not high, you're
Sure.
like, it's kind of a weird room. And
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And,
yeah.
and when I
Be
get in
more
my
honest.
head, I kind of get in my head. But, it's tricky, Like right now, I might smoke a little bit of weed since we're talking.
Live your life, man. Of
I gotta
course.
live
Yeah.
my life here. It is the Cannabis Coffee Hour, and it does go well with herb. What about now? Your background's interesting because
Sure.
you are from the South.
Yes.
Where in the South? Because I grew up in Virginia. A lot of my family's all from the Appalachian Mountains.
I'm from New Orleans.
Okay.
My mom's side of the family is from Knoxville, so that's a little more Appalachian. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I got an uncle in Knoxville.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only been there a handful of times, but I'm from New Orleans.
You're
Yeah.
from New Orleans.
Yeah. So not a fully what one would consider a Southern experience, but then
It's its own experience.
it's its own thing.
Yeah.
We like to say it's more European.
Yeah.
But
I would agree.
but I don't even I don't think weed's legal there though.
No.
But I don't think anybody cares.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know much. The thing about New Orleans is sad about me is that I've never been.
Oh, you got to get down there,
I
Rob.
got to get it
There's
down there.
shows.
I know. And it is one of the coolest places in the world. It's actually, and it does actually, and in America, it actually has American culture, which is hard to find, like real culture.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what
that's true.
it's got its own. That's the thing about the South. The South. Yeah, some of the culture's rough, but it is culture. Like it's not
Sure.
plastic. There's roots, and there's a reason for it all.
Sure. No, there's a history. Different kinds of it. Absolutely. It's definitely, New Orleans is definitely a city that has a level of diversity you don't get in a lot of other places. I always like it. Just a little thing, but like, I'm a big Saints football fan, and you'll watch a game on TV and they'll show like basically the expensive seats, and it is not just like trust fund, like bankers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There is more of a diversity there, which is nice. But it's it's definitely, there's also like 6 police officers in the whole city. So there's like they don't care about
And
weed.
everybody has a little bit of cocaine on them and a drinking problem.
Yes, yeah, and they love they love to shoot you down there. So they have more issues. So the drugs they don't think about quite as much. But yeah,
there's guns. Yeah,
it's definitely nice to be from a place where I tell somebody where I'm from and they go, "Oh, that's cool," as opposed to many other cities in America. It's maybe not as exciting. But
I know.
Yeah,
but that's what I feel like when I moved here. I started getting my head around the Northeast, which was very weird for me to understand until I've lived here for like 15 years.
Now, see, in my
and
head,
now I'm like, Connecticut, I kind of understand that. Jersey, I kind of understand that. Like it's just a lot of people.
See, I'm from such a deep south. I think Virginia to me is almost the Northeast, but I know that's not how that goes.
I'm DC, which is like right in the middle.
It is in the middle.
That's great right. It's a great city. People are. It's not as much money as here, but people also are college educated. So it's not like super 1%, but it's not super dumb, and it's super diverse. African American culture, Black culture, whatever you want to call it, is just deep and running powerful.
Absolutely.
And as you said, I grew up the same way where I looked at Black culture. I knew that there was rich people. There was it wasn't the same stereotypes that was being fed to me. It was like, no, there's levels of class in everything.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I had something to say about DC and I lost it, but yeah, it's
you love performing there. It's a good comedy.
It is
town.
a fun place to perform. Yeah, I haven't been. I went on a little run right before COVID. And I can't remember where I performed there, but it is fun. You just take the train. It's from this is what I was going to say about Connecticut.
Yes.
It's not that interesting, but
that's what I learned about Connecticut. It's not that interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it blows my mind in my head, and I know this is not true, but this is like getting your head around the Northeast. I just can't fathom that there are not basically there are bad parts of Connecticut, because in my head, every square inch of that is just the richest. Waspiest. Yes, absolutely.
We're playing lacrosse.
Getting away with vehicular manslaughter. Yes. Kind of folks. But they got heroin up there or whatever. They got their own issues.
Oh, Oxy. Yeah, you go to some of these like towns where Yale is, like driving through some of these places. Yeah, everybody's got it kind of. Some of these secondary cities got it rougher than the main cities.
New Haven County, that would be tough. I think. Yeah. You're surrounded by Yale students. That would not be a good time, I would imagine. Yeah.
And then but everybody's moving upstate. Like there is cool parts of New York. Everybody's kind of moving upstate, and I love hippie shit. Like I do have a tie-dye on. I don't really like tie-dyes that much, but it was my clean shirt, and so I wore this, and then. But I do love kombucha. I love outdoors. I love.
Are you making your own kombucha?
No. Okay.
I
don't even know that much, and I don't even drink it that much. But whenever I do, I'm excited.
Does it give you a little lift?
Gives me a little lift. It's clean. The vinegar feels like it's cleaning my blood.
Oh.
Because I do the apple cider vinegar every day. Like I'm always thinking about my body. Like I'm always thinking a little bit health conscious, even though, I'm always like Oatmilk. I'm always trying to just go lean and mean.
Sure. I respect that.
And that's kombucha I just see as like an alternative to like the one time I found it that was dope was in Denver at a bar, and they had it on tap. So everybody was having
that makes
beers,
sense. Sure. Yeah.
And then I just started drinking kombucha and smoking legal cannabis in Denver.
Time of your life.
And I was having the time of my life.
Yeah.
It was keeping me up. It was clearing out the funk.
That is nice. I do always think about just how much more important it is now to be like high functioning in almost every way.
Yeah.
Just like I think about like Hank Williams, the old man, the original.
Yes.
That like this guy who died. He drank himself to death at like 27 or whatever.
Yes.
And the amount you have to drink to do that is insane, of course. And then you look at what he's like basically every song he did is the most simple. You could be so drunk and play. He's like the hey good looking guy. Yeah. It's just everything is the most basic shit in the world, and now you have to operate so you can't just go drunkenly slur hey good looking and people think you're a genius. You have to operate at such a high level. Even like athletes, they used to like smoke cigarettes at halftime, but now they're like monitoring their sleep and everything. It's just like you have to you can't. It is,
we're living longer now, and
Yes,
people that everybody's bumming out on life, and I'm not. I'm like, and I just turned 50. Like, I'm just learning who I am. It feels like, and just learning like things come and things go.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
and
nice.
especially with show business. Like, I've seen that. Like, somebody be super popular, and then the next 2 they're canceled. And
Sure.
they're like
Sure.
the last person you want to be. And it's like there's a flip side to all of it. It's like I've seen it come and seen it go. And I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think people are learning to try to live.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm going to drink oat milk. I don't want a heart attack. Oh, I don't like this feeling of anxiety. Maybe I'll try some cannabis. Maybe I'll try trauma with, psychedelics. Everybody's talking about cannabis. But,
Sure.
But how mainstream psychedelics almost seems more mainstream and more approved from the American consciousness out there right now, because there's so much mental health and so much like backed up trauma from generations that everybody's just like, almost like doing high dives into it. But I haven't done that many mushrooms myself.
It's been a while for me. It was in this very park last time I did it. But with a group. Yeah, it is. It feels like even like high-powered CEOs who like do cold plunges and all that stuff are also microdose.
They're all microdosing. They're all, especially the 1%. They've been ayahuasca since the day.
Ayahuasca I would do. That's like the last frontier I would consider doing. I think drug-wise,
I think what I'm up for, and I need like really good mushrooms, like in Colorado, like in a controlled natural space.
Yeah.
And maybe by myself.
Sure. In a dark room, maybe?
No. I could handle, I don't know. Nowadays, it's like anytime I can get peace and quiet.
Sure. That's fair. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, these mushrooms are nice. There's no TV. Like nowadays, it's almost when I'm not looking at my phone, I find it trippier.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I'm looking at my phone. I was talking about it last night. Like, that those late night hours, like, I'm going to watch a movie I like, or I'm going to get high and watch this thing. Now I just like get high and just stare at the ceiling.
Well, good for you. I mean, there is like something I sometimes think about, because I'm a big coffee shop guy.
Yeah.
And I'll write in a coffee shop sometimes, and like sitting in a coffee shop with a notebook is the most almost perverse act anybody could do in the modern times. I'm just like the only human who's not looking at their phone.
Yeah,
or
but
not
I
on a
love
laptop.
it.
Of course I do too, but it's like
a cup of coffee in your notebook. Yeah. That was another reason I got into stand-up.
Sure.
I loved going to the coffee shop. I loved getting out my notebook and going over my 4 half-written jokes over and over again and trying to write new ones.
But it's like nowadays, it's like you are best case scenario a poet. If you're sitting, it's like you're a psychopath.
You're almost fronting.
Yes, yeah.
You're almost fronting. But I do think there is there's a different energy in textile things right now.
Oh yeah, sure. That's fair too. Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you're being so creative, but it's all going into this Instagram grid, or it's all going into this YouTube page, and it's not, it's like almost your art is already framed in a way that you have no control of, which takes kind of like the creative element out of it a little bit.
It's definitely going, like, you see like more like kids, or like I read an article at least about like New York high school kids who all are like using flip phones now and like don't have Instagram and all that stuff. So it is, it kind of goes.
That's dope.
Yeah.
It's the world is changing rapidly, and I'm all here for it.
That's great. Good to have that positive mindset,
Yes.
I'm probably more filled with terror in general, but I support that.
Yeah. There's a reason for all of them. Yeah. And I know just being too positive is like fake, and you can't do that.
Sure. But it's good to.
And it's tricky, but you just don't. The thing I know is like nobody knows.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah. It's good to embrace the unknown.
It's good to embrace the unknown. Yeah. Even the people, there's the people that talk so much shit about how they know what's up and what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, those
the
are the
more
worst
they talk, the more they're telling me they don't know.
Sure. No, absolutely. Protest too much, they would say, yeah. Yeah, I think there's nothing less interesting than somebody who seems to think they know what they're doing or know what's going on, Yeah.
But you do need some confidence going forward, especially with comedy. Like, and especially like just handling your business. Like everybody's high performance right now in terms of so a sense of confidence. It's like a confidence, but then you can't be cocky. I don't know. I'm always trying to do that balance.
Well, I always feel like with stand-up in particular, there's like a fine line where like you don't everything. Basically, you can't always win, and you can't always lose in your stage. So you can't just be this confident kind of dick who's just like, look at how dumb everybody else is. I got everything figured out. But you also can't be like so self-deprecating to a degree that's like, well, why am I listening to you talk if you think you're the worst human being that's ever lived?
Yeah.
So there's always, you need that a little bit. But it's also like, I feel like, self-awareness is so important in comedy, and you don't want to, you got to at least be somewhat aware that you're not the best, you know what I mean? But while still having the confidence in some degree.
You can be the best. I mean, to be more positive, you got to be your best self. You got to be the best you and not worry about everybody else. But also, and that's the humbling thing about comedy. And I think with art and even money, it's like somebody's always going to be better. Somebody's always going to have more.
Sure, yeah.
In life, there's just always something. So you just got to keep on in your own little bubble and try to build up.
Well, there's always a bunch of people that, are maybe doing better than you or whatever, however you want to context that. Yes. And then there's a bunch of people that would be happy to be where you are right now. Yeah. Basically, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, especially with comedy. Now, with New Orleans, did you grow up with music? Do you love music, or was it too much? It was almost like living in the church. You were like,
Well, I did live in I grew up very religious, so I did live in the church.
I have a theory that, rock and roll comes from the church.
Sure.
There's
that's
no
fair.
Elvis Presley. There's no R&B without Southern Baptist method. Without that church organ. Just
that Jerry Lee Lewis shit.
Yeah.
I grew up Southern Baptist, so I was raised Southern.
There you go.
Yeah, but
I grew up Methodist.
Oh, there you go.
Which is it's the light version of Baptist.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
okay.
It's like the Diet Coke of Baptist.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I listened to like Christian rock.
Oh yeah.
And my dad would play oldies in the
I got
radio,
a cousin that plays Christian rock.
Oh really? It's not a bad pivot or gig,
Yeah, some people look down on Christians or people that listen to Christian, but when you're in the South and in some of these towns and your aunt has cancer and your foot's about to fall out.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't want to listen to like some arty Lou Reed shit. Yeah. You got to put on something like Jesus help me, my foot's about to fall off.
Absolutely. No, it's definitely there's a lot of I've lived in New York and LA. I like the coast, but there's a lot of yes, but there's like everyone has really nice lives in these places generally. Yes. In the coasts, and there seems to be a lack of understanding that other places in America, maybe their lives are not as sunny and great. It's always like it's not what we're talking about, but I always feel like
it's interesting.
I'm not a hunting guy.
Yeah.
But I totally understand if you're living in Mississippi and you don't have any money and you don't have a good job and you got all these kids and everything and you just want to, your dad went hunting.
No, I
You just want that release or whatever.
No, I grew up in a town of 5,000 in Southern Virginia after D.C. So all the kids hunted. They took 3 days off during deer season. And I think it's the raddest shit. Like redneck sports, like just fishing with a spin rod.
Peaceful.
Oh, it's the most peaceful thing. And then, hunting. I got into shot. I mean, now I'm meditating and so Buddhist out that I don't want to be anywhere around guns. But at the same time, if you live in the woods, I'm country enough to understand that you need them.
Yeah. Well, it's also like if you love guns and like shooting guns and killing things, go out in the woods and do it.
Yeah. Give
them the outlet.
Yeah,
you know.
Give them the outlet. And that's what I always say. Like a good redneck, if you can't survive off of a Zipco spin rod and a 12-gauge shotgun and a pistol.
Sure.
Like that's all you need if you're a good outdoorsman. That's why I think about all the automatic. Not to go super political, but it's like these they don't need that shit.
Oh, of course.
They don't need that. Like if you're just gonna do hunting. And you just need like a shotgun and a rifle or a bow. And I got no problem. It's a good way to be connected to nature. Yeah, fishing is the same way. You could eat it or you could throw it back in.
Sure. And I've been to Mississippi. There's not, they don't have a lovely cafe in the park to go sit by a bench, They have water and they have woods.
Yeah. And you got to make that shit happen.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Or you're watching Fox News for the next 12 hours.
Sure, it's a break. It's probably better to shoot a possum than watch Tucker Carlson or whatever.
Yeah.
So I grew up with basically listening to the same 8 classic rock songs on the local radio station.
Cool.
And some Christian rock. My brother was really into Christian ska.
Oh, wow.
Which is
what was
its own
the number
thing.
one Christian ska band?
Well, we like the OC Supertones.
The OC Supertones.
For Orange County. Not Original Christ, but Orange County.
This comes from California.
This is some California ska.
Yeah.
Saw them live a couple of times. Saw my fair amount. I don't remember the first time I went to a non-Christian music show, but that was definitely all of
you were indoctrinated.
Oh yeah, we were in deep. We were in deep. And those always they do the show and then they give you a little testimony. They slip that in at the back and they try to get some, they're trying to save a few on the way out. It's quite a situation. But those were fun, I guess. I like music.
Do you look back on having fun? You must have had fun. Ska music is very happy.
Sure. I was not skanking around.
And they weren't probably that good.
I don't know. I don't know what good ska sounds like compared to bad ska. Well, I just haven't listened to it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sublime.
Is Sublime ska? See, I don't even know that.
Operation Ivy. I don't know, but I'm not a super ska head, and I'm definitely not a music nerd.
But I like horns.
Yeah,
and that's
I love horns.
Growing up in New Orleans, I feel like I have more of an appreciation for horns than other people might.
Oh, dude, if you have a band, you got a smoking horn section.
Oh, yeah, sure. Chicago? Come on.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love it? But basically, I would listen. Yeah, growing up, I would listen to Stairway to Heaven probably about 3 times a day because it was just always what the local radio station would play.
Yep.
And a few things like that. And I
gotta get the lead out.
Gotta get the lead out.
Get the lead. All the classic rock stations around the country had a term. Get the lead out.
Absolutely. And in New Orleans we have bounce rap. So I would listen to a little bit of definitely like the school bus would play. It was B97 and they were playing kind of 90s.
Bounce.
Yeah.
We have Go-Go in DC.
Okay.
And
I know
that
it's the whole scene.
that has its own music and its own culture, and I know Bounce is very similar. It's like almost a hybrid of hip hop.
Yes, it's a lot of shouting out, ass shaking moves in different neighborhoods in New Orleans. That's most of what it is, but I like it.
The DC Go-Go's, a lot of that is shout-outs to everybody and all their friends, which is always nice to get a shout-out.
Of course, it feels
from
great.
From the stage, and you're at the show, and the buddy is on stage going, "Hey, Big Rob, what's going on?" I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing good, man."
Definitely I always think one of my favorite or kind of weird things about stand-up is, there's this video, this guy, DJ Jubilee, who's a New Orleans bounce rapper.
Oh, wow.
And I used to watch one of his live videos sometimes before work when I was 19 or 20. And it would be him, and it's just a song, and he's just calling these dance moves, and there's 50 mostly just white ladies bouncing on the stage, jiggling around. And I, a year later or so, did stand-up in that very venue in New Orleans. And I just always love the comparison of, this guy's giving people just the hottest time of their life. They're dancing, they're grinding, they're loving everything, and then I'm on the very same stage alone, talking about how dating is weird or whatever. It's just a very different experiences. But I guess stand-up can be cool, but you don't get that. Nobody's getting horny off of stand-up generally, I don't think.
No, not. Stand-up is it's definitely a little bit of nerd mode.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I've learned over the years. There's a lot of no, killing in a room is always cool.
Sure, I did not that night. I remember, but but generally yes.
I was thinking about that today. I'm thinking about my career, and I had a tough set last night. I had a rough set, and. But I also remember all the times I killed and how much fun that was. Even they can't, I just look back man, that was so much just to go in and just, bam.
Sure.
When you first learn how to do stand-up, that's such a power move.
Oh my God, yeah. And it can still feels great.
Yeah, I guess 3.5 years in and you're hanging out with all the younger guys that are just starting and you kind of have that tool to go up there and just do it and in front of all these people, I think is just so Yeah, I think it's rad.
No,
Still.
of course. I definitely.
But stand-up is changing. I'm not like definitely TikTok and Instagram and podcasting has changed like what's going on out there.
Well, it's kind of like I was talking about like with athletes and everything too. I just feel like there are way more people who like had nice parents and know how to treat their bodies well and all that stuff. It's not so. It's less of the I want to smoke weed all day. What's the job I can do, or I can do that, or this, that, or the other. Where it's definitely much and a lot. Still very funny people, but just much more high functioning human beings.
Yeah, I mean, when I started. Yeah, there was a sense of rock and roll. Like whatever rock and roll means. I was thinking about that. It's on John Belushi's grave. It says "Rock and Roll Forever."
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
But I loved stand-up. Was a little rock and roll. Like I toured with Hedberg. I loved that.
Yes.
And,
that's crazy.
Yeah, there's it's just something that's nonconformity. That's what I talk a lot about on the podcast. Is like going against the grain is such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And now it seems like, stand up, there is a lane. But when I started, there wasn't a lane to get in. It was just, you just had to figure it out. It was like jazz, like you just stumbled upon this weird scene. And then you were like, okay, I go here.
Sure. Yeah.
This is great. This guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah. No, there definitely will. Because it feels like before you or I would have started, there was like almost a clear path of like, in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
You do clubs, you do the Tonight Show, yada, yada, yada.
Might get some movies.
Yes, might get some movies. And then that did kind of go away. Definitely did.
Yeah.
And then more amorphous. Now, I mean, I think it's still pretty not super tangible, but there are more paths, like you're saying. But it's less. But the more of the paths are less about the actual stand-up than just the personality or whatever. I feel
and
like,
the PR
right?
approach.
The PR approach, yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I'm trying to embrace, much like a basketball game, you want to work on the stuff you're not strong at.
Sure.
And so that's what I liked about doing this podcast is like it is a pain in the ass and sometimes to edit and do everything, but it just makes me, it keeps me in the game and it's tough and it's hard and it's weird. And but I enjoy doing it and working at it. Same thing with stand-up. Like you just gotta find art in everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like whether it's making coffee, that's something that's helped me with anxiety and everything else is like when I'm so stressed out in life, I just like, okay, how can I make this podcast or how can I make this moment?
Yeah. Good for you. That's good. That's a good way to be. Now, I
had to practice it from a lot of like freakouts and getting in my head for too long. But everything's a practice, whether it's stand-up or meditation or art or being connected or being in love or everything is like we're waking up every day and practicing this thing.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Definitely simplifies it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What I found interesting about you, can you talk? I mean, we only got we're into 40 minutes now.
Oh my God.
So, but I love your Christian background, like Christian rock, like, so you listen to Christian ska.
Yeah.
And would you say you had a happy home life?
No. No.
No.
We could, but
I don't want to put anything out there.
Oh, these are all stuff I've talked about.
I was trying to maybe talk simply, like, there is I embrace everything, and I don't think you could. I embrace the moment, but I also dig Jesus's message. Like,
really? No, that's fair.
From a hippie sense.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
From his peace, love. I do in my heart. I am like a peace, love, hippie.
Yeah.
Guy. One love type dude. But if it's but it comes back to conformity and telling people what to do and judgment.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not like as somebody who used to be religious. I'm definitely not a person who gets very aggressive anti-religion. I'm definitely not somebody who like because
sometimes it does that.
Some people get very like if somebody's like street preaching or whatever. I don't care. There are those people that will just yell at them or whatever and or it makes them queasy to see.
Triggers. Yeah.
Triggers would be the term. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be nice to people or whatever, but spirituality. I have a hard time necessarily accessing that.
Which is good.
Yeah. But I support it, and I think it's probably good to feel connected to the world and nature and all those things.
Yes.
And that's probably a better way to look at it. It is interesting, like, when you look at, like, self-help books and even, like, stuff Jesus says and just all the stuff in the Bible, 12-step, so much of it is about just trying to be present.
Yeah.
That's even, like, a lot of what Jesus is talking about. It's just trying to be present in the moment. And it's just amazing how, like, so many, like, every song since the beginning of time is either about like wanting to get laid or that everything will eventually be okay. So just like the concept that we've all been dealing with all these things since the beginning of time, and that the key has always been to try to just exist in the moment, and since the beginning of time. But obviously it's still quite hard because we're all still struggling with that. But nothing has really changed as far as human existence, even as the world has changed completely around. I think, if that makes sense.
No, that's 100% makes sense. Like, as complicated with these podcasts and social media and celebrity and money and everything, it is, we're just spinning on this rock, and like, just being nice and living in the moment is how you get to experience it. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm feeling this breeze right now.
Oh, lovely breeze.
It's such a good breeze. And if I really sat there, I was like, oh man, that's kind of like where I'm at. Like, being alive is fun, like feeling a breeze, a quick break away from everybody, and just being in a quiet spot I love, and noise and running, and there's a time for everything.
Sure, of course. Yeah, quiet's good. I imagine with the kid and stuff, you seek the quiet maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I do. But I was single for a long time, so I also was always kind of a lone wolf in my own way.
Sure.
Like,
well, comics.
Kind of a nonconformist in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But now you would say, so you grew up Southern Baptist. Was there music in the church? Was it
hymns?
Hymns.
So just like old Southern Baptist is just elderly white people mad and sweating in suits.
Grace.
Sure. I mean, that's funkier than most of them, but yeah.
Sweet. I was singing that. I was like, because I was thinking about hymns, because I did sing all. I had what was weird about my Methodist bring up is that I never was too into it, but I never hated it. Like,
really? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I was.
There was a cool chick at church that I liked, and there was fun. My older brother was there, and I wasn't listening. I was making him laugh, and I was falling asleep. I did hate going to, but now in hindsight, I like those hymns. Amazing Grace is a good one.
The hymns are good. Amazing Grace is solid. Holy, holy, holy is another banger.
Oh yeah, you get holy. But we used to always put shit at the end.
Holy, that's fun. Well, you guys were bad boys.
Shit. Just as a joke under our thing.
Well, of course.
But it was in church, so we were kind of treading dangerous.
Definitely, like, in hindsight, I don't think I was ever super into it, but I was not. It was also where a lot of my socializing came through.
Yeah.
You would do the little greeting in the beginning, and I'd get some hugs from girls. That was exciting.
Yeah, and you're on stage in front of the crowd. That must have been your early stand-up. When
I was in high school, there was like a brief period of time when I would do like the morning announcements on Sundays. So like who's doing this, and I would go up with the sole desire to crush, and I did. I would really bring the house down on these announcements. Just little. Honestly, just kind of sarcastic comments or whatever. And eventually the pastor, who was very nice, had to be like, hey, we kind of can't have you just come up here and try to get laughs for the first 10 minutes of church. But that was great. That was a great time.
Oh, you must have been the cutest, funniest kid, man.
Oh, yeah. I was bringing the heat. I don't remember. Yeah.
Killing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on some super, but I thought it was interesting, and Southern Baptist is always interesting because it is so hardcore.
Very hardcore. Hate dancing.
Yeah, they're very much just into anything pleasure, just very negative. It's just like that tough, I know that tough Appalachian, just stone coldness. And
it's also like I always feel like, obviously there's plenty of reasons for this, but like one of the reasons why there's so much homophobia in some ways is I think that you're just like a bitter old guy.
Yeah.
And you've given up anything joyful.
Yes.
And then you're looking at like a stereotypical gay man who's like dressed comfortably and like dancing and singing and getting laid anytime he wants. And why would you not hate that? You know? That's how and then like if you just like lesbians always just stereotypically seem less happy.
Yes.
So I feel like that's one reason why I never heard anybody talk about get mad about lesbians in the church, because I think they were like, well, at least they're miserable, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, Methodists, they were allowed. I know it's
that's great.
Yeah, and
that's
as
great.
I got older, my mom was like, and but half the church turned gay. Like,
oh wow, that's great. Good for them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. But it was just an inner city. It was much like living in Brooklyn here, but in the 80s and stuff. But as the 90s and the 2000s got along, that movement has opened up, and it's better.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't think the Southern Baptists
about
come
Christianity. It's the judgment. I think you say don't judge. That's the whole thing. Is like there's all these basic commandments like thou shalt not kill. That's what I've been thinking about with guns and the gun deaths and the human. Like I read something about if man has the will to kill, the universe will never completely open.
Okay, wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And then I thought about American culture and just everything that we have going on here. But at the same time, you got to protect your neck.
Sure. No, I have several guns on me right now. You know? I don't. It's definitely it's a tricky business. I had another religion thought, but it went away.
Yeah.
I'm not even high, Rob.
Yeah, you're just talking to me.
Yeah.
You're getting a contact, Rob.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we don't have to go super. I mean, you've been too cool. It's 47 minutes, dude. I did your show the other night. I love doing your show. It's at Young Ethel's. It's every week. If you're ever in Brooklyn, come to. It's free. It's at 7:30, and he gets the best comics in the city.
Yeah, it's fun. Free show, tight run time. It's usually about an hour. Come on. And what else do you want in a stand-up?
Yep.
Nobody's like, I want that show to be longer. You know? Yeah. And it's good comics.
I always
we have
say 90 minutes for everything.
Of course.
This is an hour, and I don't even make it to that. But any movie after 90 minutes bums me out.
Sure. You're not seeing The Lord of the Rings, it sounds like.
Yeah. I have seen it, but it wasn't worth
Too long.
It wasn't worth it.
I never saw the third one. No need.
Keep it down to 90.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the third. Yeah, I kept on falling asleep in the movie theaters. But I would rewatch them. There is some cool shit to it.
Sure.
What about the new Star Wars stuff? Are you watching any of this stuff?
I like it fine.
Mandalorian?
I would say. I saw the first. I think I need to watch the new season because I read something. It seemed like it might be interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely have watched pretty much all the Star Wars things. Not like I haven't seen some of the new shows. But it's not my absolute favorite.
Yes.
I always felt like Star Wars I liked fine, but I felt like as a kid I pretended to like James Bond and Star Trek for a very long time. I don't really know why. But in hindsight, I don't think I ever really got any joy out of James Bond.
No, James Bond was cool, though.
He's cool.
I love those ski shots.
Sure, of course. Well, he's a great skier.
Absolutely. Skier. Dude, on the Swiss Alps. Dude, some of that photography. The thing about the James Bond's films, it's the opening sequences.
Mm-hmm.
The artistic and the music, like it was just so big budget, and they would get these cats to do these insane intros.
Mm-hmm.
And then, any of those ski shots when they got machine guns and...
Sure. They should have just done like a ski movie, like an 80s ski camp movie. Sex comedy with James Bond.
Dude, forget the podcast. Let's write this ski 80s action movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's just all machine guns and skiing.
That'd be fine. That'd be good. That'd be good for TikTok, you know?
Great for TikTok. And you don't have to show much violence. You just show the snow pop up.
Absolutely.
So it's
which is already fun.
Always, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, great. People don't talk enough about James Bond's skiing abilities. Yeah.
And always the classic shot is dropping off the chairlift.
Sure. Yeah.
Which we all think about whenever you're on a chairlift. You're like, I could do that.
It'd be fun. It would be fun to try.
To break my leg.
It might end poorly, but the drop.
You think about it.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Yeah. Part of the thrill.
Yeah, I'm going up to Vermont. Speaking of the Northeast, I am booked. I'm doing like a club near Killington in the winter. And I don't ski that much, but every year I try to go once. And that's the one I'm looking forward to.
Vermont in the winter. I have done comedy in Vermont in the winter. It's
What's the
too
deal?
cold. It's just too cold. Why is it this cold? And why are we out there? But it was fun. The shows were fun.
It'll be cool.
Because they don't care.
It's going to
be
an
go
adventure.
Out. Yeah, they're used to it. But it's just I never quite experienced that level of cold. But that was February. So maybe
it'll work out. But Zach, thank you. We'll wrap it up. Is there anything you want to plug before we shut it down?
The Young Ethel show, and I'm also Zach Sims on social media things. ALSO. Zach Sims.
Zach Sims, check him out.
1M.
Super funny, cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite guys to see around.
Absolutely, you as well.
Thank you for doing it.
Of
dude.
course. Thanks
You're
for
the
having
best.
me. Yeah, it's
Peace and
fun.
love, everybody. We're out.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.